welcome back to my channel. My name is Sean. Welcome. If you're new here, thank you for checking out my video, and all of my returning subscribers, welcome, and my channel members, welcome in. Thank you all for watching my video today. So as you saw by the title, I'm going to be talking about embroidery supplies and what you will need if you're thinking about getting into embroidery, or you're very new to embroidery and you're still confused about some of the things that go along with it. That's what this video is going to be about. So I do have my notes here, so I'm going to be looking down. It's a lot of information, so I don't want to forget anything, and I'll be going in sections, and I'll make sure to put timestamps below in the description box for you all as well. So before we get started, I'm gonna just give you a little introduction about myself. So again, my name is Sean, and I've been crafting for well over, I would say, about 11 or 12 years. I've been sewing for about 11 years, embroidering for about 8 years, working with rhinestones for about 6 or 7 years, and then recently started doing sublimation about a few years ago, and kind of just trying out different crafts as I go. But rhinestones and embroidery are my avenues, or the things that I love to do most, and they're also my business as well. So now that I got that out the way, let's go ahead and jump into all of the supplies and topics that I want to talk with you guys about today. So the first topic is going to be, of course, your embroidery machines and your hoops for your embroidery machines. Now, it's going to depend really on you as far as what type of machine you get. There are flatbed machines like the machines behind me. There's multi-needle machines from 4 needles, 6 needles, 10 needles, 12 needles, 15 needles, so on and so forth. So it really is just going to depend on what your need is. Is it going to be a hobby? Is it going to be a business? Things like that. So that's something that you want to consider. Another thing that you want to consider, if you're going to get a flatbed machine like the machines behind me, one big thing to consider is the hoop size. A lot of people aren't sure, or they may just buy a machine not realizing that their machine may only embroider a certain area. So these are the hoops for the machines. I have a Brother PE 900 and a Viking Designer Diamond Royal, and both of those two different brands. So I have two different kinds of hoops. Now with my Brother PE 900, for example, the hoop comes with a 5x7. So this is the space that I'm going to be able to embroider in. And there's also a repositional hoop, which means you would have to have a split design and you'll have to move the hoop. And I'll put that video up here in the card so you can check that out after this video. I also have it linked in the description for you. But that can make your embroidery area up to a 5x12 area. So that helps as far as your hoops and your space. Now, a lot of beginner embroidery machines, like say the Brother PE 535, which I normally recommend, especially if you're just getting started, you want to test embroidery out. It's not a super expensive machine, maybe like a few $100s, and you can figure out if embroidery is for you, but you would be limited to a 4x4 size hoop. So you wouldn't be able to embroider bigger than a 4x4 area. So that's something that you want to take into consideration. So whereas I just showed you the hoops for my Brother machine, now my Viking machine has like these mega hoops, like this one is a 14x9, or actually no, 14x8. And this one is, I want to say, a 9x6, I believe. So I have this space and this super large space to embroider in. My Viking machine also has a more like a repositional hoop, similar to the Brother, but is handled a little bit differently. Whereas the Brother with the repositional hoop, I would have to split my design and then move, because there's different areas here that you attach to the carriage on your machine, and I would have to move it. Whereas with the repositional hoop for the Viking machine, that one goes up to a 14 by 13. And instead of moving it, I would actually have to turn it, like rotate it, and then attach it to the machine, and it'll finish stitching out. So it's a little bit different. So it's going to depend on your machine. I would say if you don't want to be stuck in just a 4x4 embroidery space, definitely check out to see if your machine does have the option for repositional hoops, or any larger hoops, or if you could step up to the next hoop, which would be about a 5x7, which would be for the Brother PE 900 or the Brother PE 800. So moving right along, next let's talk about needles. So regardless of whether you have a single needle machine or multi-needle machine, you're going to need needles. Now, the needles will range from about 70 millimeters to 110 millimeters, 70 millimeters to 110 millimeters. And the lower the number, the finer the needle. So that's something that you need to remember. You always want to check your manual that came with your machine, and it'll give you more details about the needle types that you should be using for your machine. So always check your machine's owner's manual. The needle is also going to vary based on your project. So if you're working with more of a heavier fabric or a more delicate fabric, it's going to change. So that's something that you do want to consider. Now, I always keep needles. I actually have some in my other room as well, but I just kind of keep these in here right by my embroidery machine. I change them out as I do different projects. That way I always have a good, new and sharp needle that is being embroidered, and I don't have to worry about doing any damage to my fabric by using a needle that has not been changed and that has been used multiple times. So you can get needles. You can get them from Amazon. You can get them from, I get a lot of mine from Joann's, probably Hobby Lobby, Michael's, places like that. But you definitely want to have extra needles. Always have needles. You always need to switch your needles out. And again, going back to depending on the project, you may need to switch a needle out just for that particular project and then change your needle for something else. So you always want to have a stash of needles like I love to keep. That way, you always have a good sharp needle, and you don't have to worry about your needle or your project possibly being ruined because you have maybe a dull needle or a needle that needs to be changed. So moving right along, next we're going to talk about embroidery thread. So first thing you want to consider is the fabric that you're going to be using when it comes to the different types of threads that there are. So you want to make sure that as far as your thread, you really want to think ahead. What fabric am I going to be embroidering on? What is the design? Things like that you want to take into consideration. Will you be working with, say, a stretchy material, stiff, flexible, a delicate type material? So those are all things you want to consider when you're considering your thread as well as your needle also. The higher the needle number, the finer the higher the thread number, the finer the thread. So that is something that you want to remember as well. And also the finer threads usually are started like about a 60 and up. So that's something that you want to remember as well. So that would be more so for delicate fabrics. And there are so many different types of threads out there. So you really want to do your research as far as the project that you're working on, the needle that you're using, the material that you're using. There's polyester, there's rayon, there's cotton, there's wool, silk, metallic. There's specialty threads, which are more like acrylic threads, which will be more like your glow in the dark, or your variegated threads, things like that. I normally like to use a poly rayon from Madeira or polyester thread for embroidering. When I'm using my sewing machine, I more so use cotton thread. So it's really going to also depend on your project and your fabric. So that's something that you want to take into consideration. You can get large cones like this, or you can get these smaller cones like this. Let me take my thread net off, something like that. So it just depends on what are you going to be embroidering, how often you embroider, as far as how much thread or what size thread you want to purchase. The larger spools, they definitely last longer. I really like those, and I do use a lot of my larger spools. I buy those more so for when I'm testing out designs. That way I always have those larger spools of thread, but they're really good for, just embroidering projects, if you're testing out designs, things like that. So threads are important. You can't embroider without threads. So you definitely want to do your research on the different types of threads that are out there as well. And as far as the project that you're going to be using that thread and embroidering on. So next, I'm going to go into bobbins. So bobbins are what's going to basically sew underneath. It is normally lightweight and it should be very durable. And you want to check your manual to make sure which size bobbin is right for your machine. So my brother uses a pretty standard size. I can use the same bobbin in my brother's embroidery machine as I can in my Singer sewing machine. So it's just going to depend. But my Viking machine, it actually takes a larger size, which I kind of like because you get a little bit extra more thread. And so you're not having to change out the bobbin as often as I would on my PE 900. But you want to check your manual to see which size bobbin is going to go into your machine. And the bobbins, you can purchase them online. They're going to come in a little spool like that. You can get them pre-wound. You can buy your own bobbin winder, or you can use your machine to wind your bobbin and use the spools, the empty spools that you have, and fill those up and just continue to kind of rinse and repeat. You just use it out and then wind it back up, use it again, wind it back up. So I like to purchase the pre-wound bobbins. I do a lot of embroidery. I do a lot of projects, work on orders. So I normally buy a pack of, I get these from Amazon, and they're about, I want to say $20-ish, $20 to $30 range. If that, might not even be that much, but it's like 144 bobbins in here, and I get black and white, and then I get them for each of the machines. And I'll have links for the supplies as well in the description box for you guys after the video as well. Next, moving on to stabilizers. Stabilizers are extremely important. You cannot embroider without stabilizer. Otherwise, you risk the chance of ruining your project. So a stabilizer basically is going to help minimize puckering, your stitches sinking, or your stitches stretching. And it also gives you a more sturdy canvas to work with. So you definitely want to use a backing stabilizer for every single embroidery project. Now, there are two different types of stabilizers. There's going to be your backing, which is when you hoop your design, you're going to have a piece of stabilizer that you're going to take and put on top. Of course, it needs to be the size of your hoop or a little bit bigger. And then you'll put your material, whatever it is, and then you'll put the rest of your hoop and you'll hoop that up. So you're always going to need that backing. And then there's a topping stabilizer, which is more so like a water soluble or wash away stabilizer that you would need to have. Now, backing stabilizers, again, like I said, it should be used for every single embroidery project. Everything every time you're embroidering, you want to use a backing stabilizer. It's going to help maintain the structure of your material during embroidery and even after, especially when you're washing it. Is going to maintain, you want your design to maintain its shape. You don't want your stitches to start sinking or, falling apart once your garment gets washed. So that is the importance of stabilizers. Also, topping stabilizers, such as a water-soluble stabilizer, which I have right here. It's really thin. It's kind of sounds like paper almost. And this is good for putting it on top of certain designs to help prevent your stitches from sinking into the fabric. So I normally use the water-soluble stabilizer on like sweatshirts, hoodies, beanies, things like that may stretch, but also where your stitches could possibly sink into the fabric. So this helps prevent those stitches, your threads, from sinking into your fabric of that particular garment. Now, there's so many different types of stabilizers. It's going to vary depending on your project, depending on what you like to use. There's water soluble, there's cutaway, there's tear away, there's wash away, there's heat away, there's spray on. So it's just really going to depend which stabilizer that you more lean towards, but it's also going to depend on the material that you're using. What fabric are you working with? That's mainly going to determine the type of stabilizers. And you can get them in the rolls like this. This would be a no-show mesh cutaway stabilizer, or you can get them in the pre-cut sheets. And I keep a lot of the pre-cut sheets on hand, both larger and small. And they just, like this one is an 8x8, and this is perfect for a 4x4 hoop. And you can and this is also tearaway as well. So you can get the rolls, you can get the pre-cut sheets. It just depends on you. They're pretty much about the same in price. It's just going to depend on the quantity. The price changes when you start to change the quantity. So like this pack here, I want to say both of these. So this pack is 8x8. I got this one from Amazon, and I want to say this was about maybe $15. And this one is also an 8x8, and I got these from All Stitch, and I want to say these are about $12 to $15. So pretty much the same. It's just going to depend on where you decide to get them from. I do get a lot of supplies from Amazon just because the shipping is so fast, but I do use a lot of other embroidery vendors as well. Sulky, I really also love a lot of products from Sulky, like their 3D foam or their puff foam, things like that. So as far as stabilizers, it's really going to depend on your project, your material, things like that. And then you can decide as far as which stabilizer would be best. A rule of thumb that I've always heard over the years, and I've actually heard a few times actually this week, is if you wear it, don't tear it. Meaning if you're putting it on, you're going to wear the garment, you should be using cutaway stabilizer and not tearaway stabilizer. So maybe that'll kind of help you remember as far as when to use cutaway, when to use tearaway. If you wear it, don't tear it. So just remember that. All right. And then in conclusion, one thing you should definitely do is have samples. Let me move some of this stuff out the way. You want to have samples from the different vendors or companies that you're buying your supplies from, so you can have them on hand. You might want to, I need a certain purple, and you can look at the number or the color chart and help you more determine what color you need and the number of that color. I do love Madeira thread, and they have so many colors. So if somebody comes up to you and say, yeah, I want, I need a patch and I need it in blue. Well, there's like 50 colors of blue. Like, which shade do you need? And you can kind of lay this out and show it to your customers or your clients and say, hey, which one do you feel is more close? Or maybe they can give you a sample of something with their logo on it and you can kind of match it up. So having samples on hand is a must. And a lot of places you can reach out to them. They may cost maybe $5, a couple dollars, and they'll ship them to you. Some places will send you samples for free. It just depends on where you're getting those samples from. So I have samples of different kinds of Madeira thread. They're poly neon, they're metallic, they're super twist, as well as New Bro thread, which is on Amazon. And they have some really good embroidery polyester threads that I like as well. As well as these samples came from Twill USA. So these are the sports twill. So you can get an idea of what it looks like, how it's going to feel. You can show these to your customers, let them get an idea so they can decide what may or may not work for them. I even have samples of HTV glitter vinyl, so I can look through here. I can show my customers like, okay, you want pink. Well, which shade of pink were you thinking about? Did you want something more light? Did you want more of a hot pink? Things like that. To be able to give your customers a visual is a huge plus for both you and your customers, because you don't want to create a design or stitch something out and it's not the right color, or it doesn't work for them, or it doesn't match maybe their logo or whatever the case. So having samples on hand is a huge plus. Even if you're not face to face with customers, you can send them pictures, or it can give you a better idea as the person that's doing the embroidering, what colors, what materials, what maybe you need to place an order for something. You want to make sure you're ordering the right thing and you have those samples there. So it's very helpful. Another thing that is like a must. So this is a stabilizer sample kit that I got from Sulky. And in here, it just goes over all of the different types of stabilizers. And that way you can, touch them. You can see how they feel, if it's something that will work for your garment, and, if it's something that you want to use or not. So they have multiple different types of stabilizers in here to choose from. So that way, when you go to their website to order, you could kind of be looking at these and like, yeah, you know what? I think I want this one. I want to order this one. And it makes the ordering process a lot easier as well. So I definitely recommend to order your samples so you'll have those on hand for you as well as for your clients also. And I'll put links to where you can order these samples from down below in the description box as well. So I hope this was helpful. I just wanted to give you all an overview of some of the necessities that you're going to need to start embroidering. If you want me to do another video about some of the embroidery supplies that I can't live without, or some of the supplies that I use on a regular that makes things easier, makes my life easier while I'm embroidering, let me know and I'll do a separate video and go over some different products that I use or some different items that I use to share with you guys that may help you out as well. So I hope this video was helpful. If you have any questions about anything I just covered in this video, from hoops to machines, threads, stabilizers, samples, bobbins, whatever, needles, let me know down below in the description box and I'll definitely respond back. Or again, if you want me to go into detail about supplies that I really enjoy using that help save time, things like that, let me know also in the description box as well. Well, thank you guys for watching today's video. I really hope this helps you out if you're starting out in embroidering. And if you have any questions, just let me know. And I will see you all in the next video. Bye guys. See you later.